Chapter 6. The City of God versus the City of Satan. For the first time, Tariq and Inaz became free from the fear of the student terrorists and the verbal harassment of other Sudanese students. Before the Emir uttered his fatwa which decreed that the two lovers should have halal marriage, Tariq and Inaz were constantly attacked and insulted by the Sudanese students. Inaz was called prostitute, bitch, shameless girl, adulteress, dirty hooker, shame to the name of Sudan, and many more ugly names. Some Sudanese girls went to the extent of spitting on her face. Other female students challenged her to fight with them. One Sudanese girl removed her shoe and flung it at Inaz's face. Luckily, Inaz managed to dodge the shot. Tariq was insulted by so many racial names such as Black Crow, Ugly Slave, Negro, Zanji, Karabi, Nobewi, Furewi, etc. In actual fact, the last two words are names of tribes, but they are used as racial insults. The word Karabi means a person from western region of Sudan, but likewise used as a racial remark. The majority of the Sudanese people consider the Karabi as a lowly and inferior person. Inaz was facing heavy persecution because she fell in love with a black Sudanese boy who was having a Furewi father and a Nobewi mother. Moreover, his father was a Karabi. Such a union between a pure Arab girl as Inaz and a black Karabi like Tariq if wasn't impossible, it was a rarity. Therefore, if the Karabi Emir didn't force them to get married against their wishes, Inaz would never marry Tariq. The forced married couple spent wonderful days in the beautiful beaches of Goa. They were like two caged birds which set free and allowed to fly away. They stayed in a very beautiful hotel. They took shower together. They bathed bare naked and enjoyed each other's bodies. They hugged, kissed, and fondled each other's privates. Very often they used their hands to masturbate. They even tried their tongues sometimes to reach a climax. They slept in each other's arms. They ate very delicious Indian food. Whenever they went to a beach, Inaz put on a different sexy bikini. 3 times, they went to watch Indian movies in the big silver screen. They traveled twice all over the city and visited many historical sightseeings. One time, they went in a cruise ship at evening. They also went 4 times to nightclubs and disco halls and danced. The lovers had never anticipated that there was a wonderful place like Goa and life could be so enjoyable. They felt that they were experiencing wonderful dream and they did not want to wake up. Nevertheless, in all those beautiful times, Inaz remained faithful to her fiancé and kept her virginity immaculate. She allowed her lover to enjoy her body in every possible way, except to deflower it. After spending 2 weeks in Goa, the lovers decided to descend to earth and return to Pune city. Pune was like a jail to them. It deprived them of their freedom and compelled them to get married. Although their persecutions might relax after they got married, still everything in that city would remind them of those black days. For them, Goa like the city of God and Pune the city of demons. Their bodies still retained the scars of the beatings they went through by the hands of those ruthless student terrorists. Their ears still echoed those nasty racial remarks and insults. But, the persecuted lovers counted those black days as something of their sad past. They returned to Pune with the hope to lead quite a good life. They just wanted to remain close to each other and pursue their education. As long as the world around them considered them husband and wife and leave them alone, they needed nothing else. When the lovers reached their apartment, they met the incredible surprise. If Inaz saw the devil standing in front of her with his 2 horns, she wouldn't be so frightened. She began to shake like a person who suddenly found herself standing face to face with a terrible demon. Her body was sweating as if she was in a sauna. She tried to talk but her voice failed her. For a few minutes, she lost all her 5 senses. Her soul began to rise out of her dormant body. The extremely frightened Inaz needed a couple of minutes or so, to give up the ghost and die. However, when that scary monster screamed at her in indescribable rage, her soul returned back. Just a few minutes ago her life was flooded with a state of intense happiness and self-confidence. But now, after that fire-breathing dragon had attacked her, their wonderful honeymoon days were turned into utter darkness. It was her biological father, the Sudanese lawyer, Mr. Ahmed Salah. He was standing in flesh and bones before her naked eyes. His eyes were reddened as if someone threw hot chili powder on them. He was breathing with difficulty. His body was shaking in rage. When his daughter didn't respond to his words, he assaulted her. He slapped her face many times. He hit her with his fists several times until he knocked her down. He then started to kick her body with his shoes. If the neighbors didn't come quickly for her rescue, the outraged father might have needed a few minutes to turn his daughter into a dead corpse. Tarek had long ago fled the crime scene of the deadly attack and left his beloved Inaz to face her inevitable honor killing, which by then was in progress. Chapter 7. The Abomination. To describe what had happened to the victim Inaz at the tracehold of her apartment would contain graphic images that may be disturbing or upsetting for some people. Without entering into a description of that hideous crime, it suffices to mention that, the neighbors with much struggle somehow managed to subdue the furious father until the police arrived at the scene and arrested him. Inaz was dead or dying when she was rushed by an ambulance to the Pune General Hospital. Her body was taken to the emergency unit. Her wedding dress was smeared with blood. Every inch in her badly battered body was bleeding. Anyone saw her condition concluded that she was dead and gone. Meanwhile, her father was sent to Pune Central Prison. Since the murderer and his victim became out of reach, we must go back in time and place and mentioned how Mr. Ahmed Salah came to know about the pseudo-marriage of his daughter. No one among those 3,000 Sudanese students in Pune had phoned him and broken the disturbing news to him. Also, no one came to his house and informed him what his rebellious daughter had done in India. Furthermore, no Sudanese student had written an anonymous letter and sent it to him. Not even the family of Tarek had come to know about the sham marriage of their son and their neighbor's daughter. The Sudanese lawyer, Mr. Ahmed Salah, while he was sitting in his office and reading the morning newspaper, he was frozen in his chair when he saw the photo of his daughter Inaz. Beneath her photo was written in big letters, "For the first time, an Arab girl weds an African boy." Mr. Salah could not believe his eyes when he saw their black neighbor's son Tarek was standing beside his daughter Inaz. With shaking hands, the lawyer read a few lines from a very long article. His eyes were flooded with tears and his vision was blurred. It took him long time to overcome the shock. Immediately, he ran out of his office as if he was chased by a bushfire. He then entered his car and went into mad speed and head home. Luckily, the outraged man didn't ram someone by his car. He jumped 2 red lights. Before he reached his residence, his speeding vehicle was captured by 3 traffic cameras. When Mr. Salah broke the incredible news to his wife, she got a heart attack. Inaz's mother survived that major heart attack, but she remained in a comatose state. Until her husband rushed to India, the wife was in coma, lying inside the intensive care unit. She was sustained by respirators. Mr. Salah left his wife half dead and flew to Hindustan. It is impossible to describe his mental state during his long trip to India. Millions of thoughts clouded his disturbed mind. He could not see the people and objects in front of him. He stumbled and fell many times and several times walked on people. From the Bombay International Airport he took another flight to Pune Airport. He then travelled by a taxi to the apartment of his daughter. He was having her address. When he arrived, the secretary of the colony informed him that his daughter travelled to Goa city. At first, the extremely angry father decided to take another domestic plane and fly to Goa. However, he dropped the idea when he understood that without address he might never find her. Through bribery, Mr. Ahmed Salah obtained from the secretary of the building the spare key of his daughter's apartment. When he entered inside the apartment, the outrageous lawyer found hundreds of evidences confirming the article he read a few days ago in his office. There were many photos of Inaz and Tarek. Some pictures showed Inaz sitting on the lap of their black neighbor. There were many photos showed the two were kissing each other. Even there were nude photos of Inaz. Each and every photo drew the furious father more angry and angry until he reached insanity. If his daughter happened to be standing near him, for sure he would have strangled her to death and burned her defiled body. After composing his rage, Mr. Ahmed Salah requested the secretary to allow him stay in his daughter's apartment. The corrupt Indian man took another bribe before he acquiesced. Therefore, while his daughter was enjoying her honeymoon with the love of her life, Mr. Ahmed Salah's anger was boiling in his chest like a tea in a kettle. The father concluded that his dirty daughter had destroyed his honor and caused the untimely death of her mother. His life was finished from the time he saw her photo in the most widely read newspaper in Sudan. He couldn't believe his eyes when he saw that black crow standing by her side. Her hand was holding the hand of a black slave. Such abominable thing had never been done before by a pure Arab girl whose great-grandfather was the Prophet Muhammad. A girl whose father and mother were from the Shajia and Jalia tribes had married a boy whose parents were from the Darfur and Noba mountains. Wherefore, the Sudanese lawyer, Mr. Ahmed Salah, decided to kill his daughter with his own hands. He knew he had no other choice except to clean his family's honor from the great abomination that his bad daughter had brought. Chapter 8. The Deal. It was through the same social avenue that the wrathful Sudanese lawyer, Mr. Ahmed Salah, learned about the detestable deed of his daughter. The Sudanese students in Pune came to know about his crime. All the local newspapers in the city published the honor killing of Inaz Ahmed Salah by her own father. As if all those articles were written by the same journalist. A Sudanese father performs an honor killing on his daughter in the city of Pune. With shaking hands and disbelieving eyes, the Sudanese students read the graphic details of the murder of the rebellious and adulterous Sudanese girl by her father, Mr. Ahmed Salah. As their habits, journalists in India were known for their exaggeration. Indians say the journalists love to add masala, spice, to their reports to make them extraordinarily attractive to the readers. Perhaps, the writers of the reports agreed upon only the names of the victim and her murderer and their blood relation. But, when it came to the motive of the honor killing and the manners in which the crime was carried out, the writers differed widely. One writer wrote, "The angry father used a double-edged sword and cut his daughter in pieces." Another writer wrote, "The victim was gunned down by her outraged daddy." Yet another wrote, "The Sudanese man killed his daughter with his own hands," etc. Likewise, the journalists differed about the motive of the crime. One writer claimed that she learned through an eyewitness that the Sudanese father caught his daughter on bed in the very act of committing adultery with her boyfriend. Another writer claimed that he had obtained his information from the neighbors that the victim was cohabiting with her conjugal partner out of the marriage bond. And yet another writer went to the extent of stating that the victim was a well-known prostitute and all her neighbors claimed to have seen every evening at least 4 to 5 men entering her apartment and spent the night in sex, drinking, dancing, orgy, etc. The writer of the last report claimed that she had interviewed one of the male neighbors who told her that he also many times slept with the victim. According to this eyewitness, the victim was extremely beautiful and had very sexy body. The victim didn't only provided her clients with sex, but she charged money for her nude dance. She had an iron post in her basement and stripped all her clothes and danced in her underwear and bra and entertained her customers. The victim wasn't only a stripper and hooker, she also sold liquor to her clients. Most of her clients were foreign students from African and Arab countries. Sometimes, the neighbors cited Indians too entering her apartment. Nevertheless, all the 3,000 Sudanese students at the Pune University knew most of those newspapers' reports had exaggerated the sinful life of the adulterous Sudanese girl. What concerned them at that moment was the honor killing of Inaz by her own father. The majority of them became happy and appreciated the courageous act of her father. They also collectively believed that the father should not be blamed for the murder of his adulterous daughter. But the question, how to absolve the so-called brave Sudanese man from the secular courts of India? Although honor killing wasn't a serious crime in Sudan, in India such a deed was considered a first-degree murder. Some of them suggested to appoint a good Muslim lawyer and promise to pay him a huge amount of money if he able to exonerate Mr. Ahmed Salah from the accusation of the murder of his daughter. They decided to tell the Indian lawyer to approach some medical doctors and bribe them so that they could declare the Sudanese father mentally unsound to stand trial. If the court accepted the insanity of the Sudanese lawyer, Mr. Ahmed Salah, the second step was to transfer him to Sudan for better treatment. The leader of the Association of Sudanese Students at Pune University, the Grand Emir of the Muslim Brothers and Sisters, the chairman of the Sudanese Communists, and the head of supporters of the Muhammadan Sunnah were collectively selected for the task of appointing a lawyer for defending the brave Sudanese father. Before going to a lawyer, those four leaders and their many assistants made a visit to the criminal Sudanese lawyer at the Pune jail. The suspect Mr. Ahmed Salah accepted the wicked deal of the Sudanese students' leaders and decided to pay whatever amount of money the Indian lawyer might ask for defending him. After obtaining the approval of the heartless father, the leaders found the most corrupt Indian lawyer in town. The Muslim lawyer told them for him to clear the Sudanese father from the premeditated murder of his daughter, he needed to bribe the judge, his jury, and at least 3 Indian medical doctors. In order to do that, the crooked Muslim lawyer asked for a half crore of rupees, 5 million Indian rupees. 5 million Indian rupees equals $71,429. At the time this account was written, $1 equals 70 Indian rupees. The four leaders and their thousands of followers called for a citywide fundraising for helping a Sudanese brother who went to jail for performing his duty as a good Muslim father. Accordingly, when the sun of that fateful day went down, half of that amount was collected. The Sudanese leaders also phoned their counterparts in other Indian cities and requested them to do the same. The collection continued until midnight. When the sun rose again, the fundraising hit a record of $75,000, which equivalent to 5,250,000 Indian rupees. 75% of that amount was collected in hard currencies, such as US dollars, British pounds, euros, Saudi riyals, and Kuwaiti dinars. The fundraisers went from house to house, from building to building, and from one hostel to another hostel. While collecting the required amount, the fundraisers claimed that Allah would bless the cheerful giver abundantly and make him pass his exams with high marks. So, the fundraising became like the indulgences of the Dark Ages. Some Islamic leaders considered the money as zakat. On the following day, the midday newspapers shocked the entire Sudanese community at Pune city, when they announced that the so-called slain and honor-killing Sudanese girl was among the living and not the dead. Each and every Sudanese student read that paper either tore it or dumped it in the garbage container. Moreover, the newspapers mentioned that the lover of the girl turned in himself. He was detained for a couple of hours and after taking his statement, he was set free. According to his confession, he was just a good friend of his neighbor Inaz Ahmed Salah. Their friendship was platonic in nature and there was no any carnality involved. Mr. Tariq Harun Al-Ajabo concluded his statement by confessing that he was a gay. Inaz was in stable condition. Her injuries were not life-threatening. She was still in the Pune General Hospital. Her ward was guarded by Pune police around the clock. The police authorities were able to take her statement. She claimed that her father attacked her at her apartment and battered her due to misinformation and misunderstanding. She believed that some Sudanese students informed her father that she married a boy without his knowledge and consent. Inaz stated further that the boy in question was her neighbor in Khartoum and her good friend in Pune. He was neither her boyfriend nor her husband. Regarding her marriage with Tariq, Inaz informed the police that the leader of the Muslim Brotherhood had forced them to go with him to a mosque and when they were there he forcibly conducted their marriage. He acted as her wali, guardian, and told 2 of his Muslim brothers to be the witnesses for their sham marriage. Furthermore, she informed the police that many times her friend and she were called adulterer and adulteress and hammered mercilessly by the Sudanese Muslim brothers. The Sudanese student Inaz said in her statement that she was not going to press charge of murder attempt against her father. She still loved her daddy and would remain forever committed to his authority as her father. She also would remain faithful to her Sudanese fiancé Osama Hashim Salah, who was her cousin brother. Under solemn oath, Inaz promised to undergo virginity test in order to prove to her father, her fiancé, and her entire Sudanese community that she was still chaste and pure virgin girl. She even determined to do the virginity test thrice with 3 different qualified Indian medical doctors. The combined statements of Tariq and Inaz once again turned the city of Pune upside down. The Sudanese students found themselves facing one of the most mysterious cases in the history of Sudan. Yesterday, they were rejoicing and cheerfully collecting hard currency money like papers, but today, they suddenly hit a wall. No matter what, the Sudanese students were ready to believe every claim even if it was uttered by Satan the devil, but not the claims. Inaz was a virgin and Tariq was a gay. When Mr. Ahmed Salah learned through the jail authorities that his daughter was still alive, he became extremely angry. He knew that, at the present he could do nothing to her as long as he was locked behind bars. However, he swore by his Allah and the honor of his family that he would never allow her to live and give birth to the child of that black slave whose color like the color of the devil and his hair like raisins. As long as he was living, he would never have a grandson like that. But, Mr. Ahmed Salah began to think about what drove his daughter into such state of insanity and led her to marry a Karabi. She was already engaged to the most handsome and highly educated boy in her tribe. How could she possibly marry a boy who was as black as the night and who had not yet completed grade 12? Was it because of his father's richness? Mr. Ahmed Salah concluded that that might be the only reason which led her to marry the son of their neighbors. Most probably, the dirty man, Harun al-Jabbo, came to India and offered thousands of dollars to his daughter and made her to accept his ugly son as a husband. If that was the case, Mr. Ahmed Salah knew the Sudanese Sharia court would annul the marriage contract on the basis of the Islamic law of lack of equality between his daughter's tribe and the Fur tribe. Nonetheless, the Sudanese lawyer dismissed that idea because his bad daughter had already defiled her body by allowing that uncircumcised Jangai to rape her. Once again, Mr. Ahmed Salah came to the unavoidable conclusion that the honor killing was the only available option for him. Chapter 9. The Reconciliation. In spite of the statements of Inaz and Tariq, the leaders of the Sudanese students went ahead with their initial plan and appointed a lawyer to defend the so-called righteous Sudanese Muslim father. When they revisited Mr. Ahmed Salah in jail, they didn't reveal to him what his daughter had told the police. Also, they said nothing about her fugitive husband. By the way, the Sudanese students had combed the entire city of Pune but they couldn't find Tariq. The only information they disclosed to the criminal father was that his bad daughter was still alive, an information he already knew. Shortly after those terrorists left, the Sudanese lawyer was informed by his guards that he had a new visitor. Mr. Ahmed Salah thought his lawyer had come to meet him and take his statement. Nonetheless, when he came to the visitor's room he was shocked to see his daughter had come to meet him. Even if the devil had visited him at that moment, the father won't be so troubled. He didn't know what to say or do. He was totally paralyzed and became motionless. The daring look of his daughter frightened him and made him to jump to a hasty conclusion that she had come to kill him. If it wasn't for the 2 guards, the criminal man might turn his back and flee for dear life. But, instead of a knife or gun, his daughter took a newspaper from her handbag and handed it to him. "Read this police report," Inaz shouted at her father. And before he could say anything, she added, "I haven't married Tariq." Mr. Ahmed Salah took the paper and began to read with shaking hands the police statement of his daughter. Whatever he read, he didn't believe it. Nevertheless, when he read that his daughter was determined to undergo virginity test to prove her innocence, he decided to challenge her claim. If you haven't slept with the son of Harun al-Jabbo, then why did you agree to marry him? We were forced to do so. That wicked Emir of the Muslim Brothers had forced us to get married. Why didn't you phone and inform me of his life threat? Is he your father to force you marry a boy against your wish? He didn't give us chance even to complain to Pune police. Why did you live with the son of Harun in the same apartment before marrying him? Because I love him, but I have never intended to marry him. From the beginning I told him we are unmatchable and he believed me and agreed for us to be just good friends. Why didn't you tell him you are already engaged to your cousin Osama Hashim Salah? He knew it. What fiancé in the whole world would agree for his fiancée to kiss, hug, and sit half-naked on the lap of another boy? And also live with him in the same apartment and sleep with him on the same bed? Inaz for the first time was made to see her immoral behaviors and irrational beliefs. She understood for the first time that no girl in the entire world could have a lover and a fiancé and be faithful to them and please both of them. Suddenly, she also became aware why each and every Sudanese student hated her. She just began to weep and beg her father to forgive her. When her father remained unmoved by her tears and pleadings, she got up from her chair and ran to him and began to cry and ask him to kill her for the shame that she had brought to him. When her tears fell on his feet, his anger against his daughter began to melt away. He then bowed down and lifted her face. Listen, Inaz, if you are truly didn't sleep with the son of Harun, I am ready to forgive you and give you another chance. But, as a lawyer, I won't accept your words unless you demonstrate your innocence by undergoing the virginity test through a recognized and qualified Indian doctor. Moreover, you must cut all ties with the son of Harun al-Jabbo. I would prove my innocence not only once or twice, but I have determined to prove it 3 times and by 3 different doctors. Regarding Tariq, he already knew that I am one day going to marry my cousin and leave him and be with my husband. Why did Tariq say to the police he is a gay? I believe he said that because he wanted to clear me from the accusation of illegal cohabiting with him as conjugal partners. Well, I have one more condition. You must discontinue your medical education and return to Sudan. If that would make you to forgive me and accept me again as your daughter, I would leave India as soon as I prove my innocence and return to Sudan. When your mother heard that you have married the son of a Furai, she got major heart attack. I left her half dead in the hospital and rushed to India. Inaz once again fell on her knees and began to cry. Before her father could do or say anything, the guards took him in and kicked his daughter out of the visitor's room. Chapter 10. The Confrontation. The reconciliation of the angry father and his rebellious daughter had brought a sudden end to that sad saga. No one among the 3,000 Sudanese students had anticipated or expected such a quick reconciliation between the extremely outraged father and his adulterous daughter. So, it was yet another mysterious riddle no one could figure it out. How Inaz had convinced her father to forgive her and accept her again as his beloved daughter despite all her shameful and open adulterous deeds with that Karabi. The students learned through the newspapers that the Sudanese father had forgiven his daughter after she visited him in prison and proved to him her innocence. Inaz was able to supply 3 medical reports, which were carried out by different 3 Muslim female doctors. 2 of those Muslim doctors were qualified practitioners in Pune and the third one was a doctor in Bombay. All 3 medical reports confirmed that Inaz Ahmed Salah was still sealed, zipped, zapped, and securely closed up virgin. The confirmed virginity of the so-called adulteress Inaz was a great dilemma to the Sudanese students. How such a young and beautiful girl as Inaz could live for 1 year in the same apartment with a 17-year-old teenager like Tariq and the 2 not having sex even once. An Arab girl with a beautiful face and sexy body like Inaz would tempt a saint. Was it because after all that Tariq as he claimed was a gay? That would be the only answer to the confirmed virginity of Inaz. Although, at first many students arrived to that inevitable conclusion, nonetheless, the Emir uttered a fatwa and cast serious doubt on the virginity of Inaz. According to this terrorist leader, Inaz's daddy had obtained those virginity tests reports through huge bribes paid to those 3 Muslim female doctors. No one was able to refute the words of the Emir because he backed them with a couple of authentic hadiths of the Prophet Muhammad. Those hadiths in which the Prophet of Islam said, when a man and a woman are isolated the devil would be their third partner, and again he said, the woman comes in the form of Satan and retires in the shape of the devil. Accordingly, the Emir argued that if we say the adulteress Inaz was still virgin, then we make our prophet a liar. And any Muslim utters such blasphemy is an infidel and apostate and he must be put to death. Therefore, for the fear of being condemned as apostates and got slain, the Sudanese Muslim students accepted the fatwa of the Emir. Yet, the head of the supporters of the Muhammadan Sunnah came up with a different explanation. He believed the words of the Emir of the Muslim Brotherhood concerning the words of the Prophet Muhammad. But he said, Inaz's father flew her to Paris and paid $5,000 to a French doctor and got her revirginized. Then, the father and his daughter flew back to India and conducted those virginity tests. The explanation of the head of the supporters of the Muhammadan Sunnah sounded convincing to many students. Most of the Sudanese students heard that in France, Muslim immigrants pay $5,000 every year to get their wives revirginized. This is because Arab men love nothing more than to deflower a virgin. Therefore, Arabs of the Middle East travel every now and then to France and pay hard currency to French doctors and get their devirginized wives revirginized over and over. Muslim men are crazy after virginity because the Prophet Muhammad promised them that each man would have 72 eternal virgins in paradise. Inaz succeeded not only of proving her virginity, but she was able to absolve her daddy from the serious charge of her murder attempt. It was again through a Muslim lawyer, she convinced the Pune court that her father didn't attempt to kill her. He just gave her a few slaps and pushed her down because some wicked people told him that his daughter was cohabiting with a man without marriage. Inaz believed that her daddy was having the right to correct her whenever and wherever she did something wrong. With his daughter by his side and the 3 medical reports in his hands, the Sudanese lawyer, Mr. Ahmed Salah, went directly to the Emir of the Muslim brothers and sisters and confronted him. How dare you to force my daughter to marry someone against her wish? And who gave you the right to be her wali? Allah and his messenger gave me the right to be a wali for the girl who has no wali. You are a black Karabi and my daughter is pure Arab. Her shoe is more clean than your face. If she is a good girl and has a Muslim father, then she won't live with a boy who is neither her husband nor her brother. Are you a correctional police officer for the Sudanese students in Pune? I am a police of Allah and his Prophet. For the evils you have done to my daughter, I swear by Allah, I would throw you behind bars upon your return to Sudan. After uttering his threat, Mr. Ahmed Salah held the hand of his daughter and marched away. Before he stormed away, the angry Sudanese lawyer tore the contract of the phony marriage, which the Emir of Muslim Brotherhood had conducted in a mosque. He then threw it on his face and walked away hand in hand with his beloved daughter Inaz.